kindergarten orientation. So we'll introduce ourselves. Our staff are here as well. I'm Varsha Desai. I'm the principal here at Millville Elementary School.
And I'm Carol Brown. I'm the principal of the Kennedy School. So I think I'll just go ahead and introduce my staff while I have the microphone.
Want us to stand?
Sure, yeah. Want us up there? This is, yeah, come on, join me.
That means everybody.
This is Mrs. Doyle. Mrs. LeBrecq. Mrs. Font. Ms. Finn, who is our supported reading teacher. Mrs. Dorfman. And Mrs. Riley.
And the teachers from Millville Elementary School are Mrs. Anderson, Mrs. Olbrey, and Mrs. Davia. So they're here as we go through the PowerPoint presentation. We've invited the teachers just to pipe in and add some information. And this is an informal gathering, so by all means, if you have questions, you can pause it at any time and ask your questions. So
Are we
let's.
blocking your view at all? Okay, I just wanted to make sure we weren't standing for us. Wait a minute, now they're going
Shy teachers, I love it. So kindergarten is tricky, and some of you parents are first-timer parents, and your parents have older students who've been already enrolled in school. Yet one of the things that we really, really want parents to work on over the summer before school starts is teaching independence. So we reviewed what the expectations are by age 5, and we know some of the children who have birthdays over the summer are not quite there yet. So, using a spoon and a fork, dress without help, recognize your own name in print. Again, that's something that we continue to work on. Follow 2-step directions. You'll be amazed how quickly they learn that. Understand simple rules. And again, the teachers work very hard with all the students on developing those skills. Sharing and taking turns. Again, we continue to work on that. Washing and drying hands, very important. And beginning to understand other people's feelings, so to identify feelings. I'm sad. Oh, it looks like you're angry. And that's one of those social skills that we foster. And then managing the bathroom and toileting skills independently. So if they don't have these skills, does not mean they cannot come to kindergarten. We just want some of the practice to happen, and then we obviously continue with that.
So this is a fun part. How can you help? So encourage your child to dress independently, such as putting on and taking off a coat or pants. And that's really important when they arrive to school in the morning, especially as it starts to get colder. When you have 20-some-odd students in the classroom, it's really helpful that they are able to take their coat off and even help to get themselves ready at the end of the day for dismissal. And offer choices during daily routines. And use first, then statements. That is so important in the following directions piece. First, you do this, and then you can do that. Avoid reprimands when your child is learning a skill. As we know, we have the benefit of being able to understand that it takes us many times to do something before we understand how to do it and we are successful at it. And our kindergartners don't understand that. And so oftentimes if they're reprimanded, they think, what did I do wrong? And it's not that they did anything wrong, they're learning. And so we know that as we learn, we'll make mistakes. Model, show your child how to do things. Modeling is so very important. You can be modeling all of the time and you'd be amazed at how your child is in tune to what they're seeing and hearing. So modeling is just such a powerful way to teach. And also encourage daily independence as much as possible. And we find that when our students can successfully do something independently, it really boosts their self-esteem and it's such a feel-good moment for them. And also keep calm. Children do tend to mirror emotions, and I know that at times that's easier said than done, but that goes back to the modeling piece. When we model how to handle situations, it is just so powerful for children.
So I'm going to pause if anybody has questions or if the staff have anything they want to add in terms of readiness.
I'm Ms. Finn. I just have seen in my own experience that purchasing a jacket with a good zipper is really worth every nickel. And it's because I know what you're up against as far as cost, but you'd be surprised at how much more easily they adapt to something that works pretty well. And also, I think I speak for the teachers when I would say Velcro is the way to go. Velcro sneakers, just a thought.
Velcro is the way to go, and some learn how to tie their shoes, so. But I do agree with you, especially in this building, children do have to bring an extra set of sneakers when they go to physical education, because we have fine finished wooden floors in our gym that we like to keep that way. And so there's a bin full of sneakers, so especially those sneakers as Velcro, quick on and off for gym. It makes things go a lot faster for their physical education special. Questions from the audience before we continue? Okay, we'll go to the next slide. So how can we promote English language arts? That's one of our academic portions in kindergarten. And they're going to be learning how to name the upper and lowercase letters. So again, if you can do some of this in school, at home, as you're seeing signs or you point to a letter when you're reading aloud, there are many ways you can integrate recognizing upper and lowercase letters. Matching letters to sounds, and again, reading aloud is one of the best ways to do it, especially if you follow along with your finger. Retelling familiar stories is wonderful. And that could be stories you share, or you read a book and have them tell the story back to you, or if something, at a family gathering, or you went to the park, have them share their experiences with you. Taking part in classroom conversations and following the rules for discussion, and that's a big piece. And again, all of the teachers here will be working on that for several weeks of knowing that, sometimes when one of your friends are talking, it's your time to listen. It goes with that back and forth portion of conversation, and sharing conversations, because sometimes, the little ones are so adorable. They'll keep asking one question after another and after another, but working with them and saying, well, you've asked a question, let's see if somebody can answer that before you go on to the next question. Asking and answering question using details in a story. So try to break that part about, I've got a question, and then calling them and they're like, I don't know what the question is. So you can prompt them with, well, what did you see at the park? Oh, it looked like you enjoyed the slide. Do you want to tell me about it? So you can prompt a lot of that skill as well. And understanding question words. So knowing when to use who, what, when, where, and why. And that again comes from modeling. Or if they're trying to ask a question, you can pipe in and use the correct wording and questioning technique right back at them to help scaffold. And I saw teachers nodding their heads. You want to add anything else? Or?
Keeping it fun. Some of you might be looking at this saying, oh my gosh, that's a lot of paper and things I need to do with my child. But no, keep it fun. It doesn't have to be on paper to practice letters. If you're out there with sidewalk chalk, you might write your child's name and see if they know what's a letter in it. They might want to try to copy it. You might be counting things because you're in the grocery store looking for things. Can they help you find something? That's readiness. That's what we call environmental print. If they can find the box of Cheerios, then that's the beginning because they know what those things look like. So don't feel like you need to be going out and buying a workbook or anything like that to practice with this. Oral language, talk with your child. As they start hearing things such as rhyming, any of those things are going to help your child develop the language skills they need, because all of that comes before that pencil and paper task. So write letters in the sand when you're at the beach, make them with rocks, get magnet letters. If you don't have a magnetic refrigerator, get a cookie tray and let them stick things on there. Those are all ways to make it fun. And we don't expect that you're sitting around doing things like school also.
I'm going to ask that, Karen. And also, just there you go. I might not be able to stop. Yeah. Just reading aloud to your child. Reading aloud to your child on your lap, or in the car as you're driving somewhere someone else is driving, or at the beach, or or just to hear your expression and how you are reading a story, they take in so much. They take in so much just by that simple task of reading a story. A lot of times with technology, that doesn't happen as much, so that I think would be really valuable to have that.
Yeah, I think it's about the modeling and the experience, and the powerful message that you can send to your child is to value learning. And that learning can be exciting and it can be fun, but that really starts with you. So when you value the learning and you share that with your child, it's contagious. Because you know what? If mom and dad think it's pretty cool, then it must be pretty cool. So that goes such a long way.
I just wanted to add, piggyback onto what Mrs. Doyle Cecilia said, is the rhyming, the nursery rhymes. They're not just old-fashioned. They're very current. The children get the rhythm of the language. It's so important that the rhymes, the singing songs, silly songs in the car, and just the old ones, old traditional ones. It goes a long way as well to help them become more familiar and comfortable with language.
That's interesting, so about singing songs, because I used to work in early intervention with children who were not progressing as well with language. For some reason, when you sing, it gets the flow of the language, and you can also get a give and take kind of conversation, and it actually gets more language development. So it's interesting.
One of the things that I want to share with all of you is when you come to screening, and I don't know if have you received your dates yet? Yes, okay. We will have more information available to you, but Mrs. Doyle has just shared.
I have just because we were talking about reading and language, and it's not a big site, but it's readtome1000books.com. It was a great site, and I don't want you to go home and read 1,000 books between now and then, but if we're talking about just like 15 minutes a day, a book a day, it doesn't have to be different books. And this site was talking about birth until they were in school, so don't be panicking about that, but I bet you've read your child a book by now. But that was a good site. But it references play, sing, talk, write, and grow. Singing with your child. They love music. Put on a song, I let them dance with you, but there's language in that, and that's the piece. It's the oral language that we really want the children to be hearing and developing. So that was a nice site that had some resources for you as well.
Okay, and how do we go about promoting the math piece of our academics? Children are going to be working on counting objects and telling how many, comparing groups of objects, one-to-one correspondence, basic adding and subtracting, naming simple shapes. And as you look at these, a lot of this, again, can be done when you're in the grocery store. It can be done anywhere you are. So there are resources that are surrounding you and your child all of the time. So begin to point some of these out, getting them comfortable with the language. You'll be getting information throughout the school year from the teachers, and you're going to be able to know what it is they're learning and some of the key vocabulary that they will be learning. And again, it's about the exposure and about the practice. It's just a tremendous support for them.
And I'm not sure if you know what one-to-one correspondence is, because we tend to throw these terms out in education. By counting, rote counting is 1, 2, 3, 4. One-to-one is actually touching the object. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a big leap from rote counting. I think children learn the rote counting first, but the one-to-one correspondence comes a little later. Even things like counting the socks when you've got laundry, counting the number of books. You can do this wherever, whenever, on the beach. How many balls do you see on the beach, or whatever. And you'll find things, and even just counting up to 10 is a big deal at this age. And if you're doing it, they're learning, or even saying, oh gosh, how many am I holding? And if it's 3 or 4 items. And then you can do one-to-one correspondence to help them count. There are many, it's so important. The math is wonderful, and it's easy to thread in. I think more people are more familiar with English language arts and how to facilitate that and work on it. but math is also an important skill that starts at this very, very early age. And there are some counting songs as well that helps with this skill. And I'll pause again. Any questions or? Yes? We currently use a math program. The question is what math program do we use? We currently use a program called Think Math, but we're in the process of piloting 2 programs this year, and we will make the decision and purchase a new math curriculum for next year. So the 2 we're piloting this year are Envisions and Go Math. You like Envisions? So we'll see. We've been piloting all the teachers, kindergarten all the way up to grade 5. And so we wanted something with more rigor to it. Other questions? So again, what can you do? I think we covered some of this. Read to your child every day, 10-15 minutes is all it takes. Ask questions about the story and share ideas. You can always pause while you're reading and talk about the pictures and illustrations and ask questions. What do you see? What is this? Does this little boy look happy or sad? And kind of build that interest in the illustrations as well as the story. Encourage your child to talk about his or her day. Very, very important, because those kind of oral conversations is a precursor for learning how to pull your thoughts together for writing later on down the road. Encourage the child to draw pictures and as part of the story and talk about the pictures. Well, whoa, what did you draw? What is this little girl doing? Oh, the sun looks a little different. So prompt that type of, get those details and prompt that language from them. Play word games. I Spy is wonderful, especially if you're in a car. Any kind of songs. Ask questions about counting as many as 20 things. I was saying start with 10. Once kindergarten starts, we'll build them up to 20. And ask questions about comparing the numbers of objects. So and that could be at a restaurant, looking at different items on your plate and say what looks like, what do I have more of? But they don't even have to count, they can just try to look and compare. Other points, and staff want to add anything? We forget anything?
One of the things I'd also like to add is that when you ask a question of your child, phrase the question so that it can't be just answered yes or no. Did you have a good day at school? Yep. You know, so just really try to ask questions in a way to get them talking about their day and what they've learned. And another piece of advice is to have them teach you. Maybe you've forgotten how to write the numbers 1 through 5. And that's something that your child can teach you. So conversations with the teacher. The relationship at any grade level between you and the classroom teacher is so important. We are so fortunate to have a staff who are so dedicated to educating your children. We have had so many conversations this year, and it's actually because of the kindergarten teachers that were here tonight, because they felt that it was so very important to have this opportunity to share this information with you. Ask to see samples of your child's work. And ask, how can I, if you have a concern about a performance, ask, how can you help? And what resources are available to help learning? I think that sometimes there are so many resources out there, you don't even know where to begin. What's a good resource, what's not? So teachers are they are your first valuable resource, and they can share with you other resources. Please contact the teacher regarding questions about social issues at school. There are always at least 2 sides to every story. So please don't hesitate to contact your child's teacher. Keep in mind that oftentimes this is the first time that your child is really going to be interacting in a group of at least 19 others. And that looks very differently than what's going on at home and often at a nursery school. So it's a very different environment for your child. It can be a little scary at first. And you know, we do all that we can to support your child at school, and we know that it's also difficult for you. That first day, especially with your first kindergartner coming to school, it can be pretty traumatic. But we want you to know that we are very willing to work side by side with you, because when we do that, I can tell you, it just makes such a difference.
I thought one thing we did not put up there, that one thing we forgot to put up there that would be very important to start practicing or preparing the child is the bus. And you know, it's a big bus, and there are lots of children on the big bus. We do seat kindergarten students up towards the front. I think it helps if you start talking about it a little bit, that you know, you'll be sitting on the bus towards the front. Make sure you stay in your seat, because you know, unlike what you have in your car, they're not strapped in. Stay in your seat, make sure you keep your hands to yourself, and use indoor voices to talk to your friends, and you'll have a wonderful ride to school, because that's a big change for students. And so start talking about it, and if you have picture books about buses, and talk about, oh, what you see, oh, they're sitting in their seat, and oh, it's so much fun, and preparing them for that, because it's a big deal to go from a strapped-in car seat to the freedom of the bus. Just have to put that out there. So here's some other resources that we used for this PowerPoint presentation, but there's a lot more on them if you wanted to browse through them. The Center on the Social and Emotional Foundations for Early Learning had a lot of wonderful resources for parents. And then the National PTA, PTA.org, again, that's Parent Teacher Association, has an excellent, excellent resource. So we just wanted to help pave the way for your child's first day in school in September. And any questions or any other thoughts?
Any questions that you have, even throughout the summer, please don't hesitate to call the school. I know at the Kennedy School, Mrs. Lee, who is our secretary, she's your first contact, and Mrs. O'Neill here at Millville. They are a wonderful source of information. So they know everything. So please don't hesitate. And one final thing is, we thought it might be interesting for you to hear a little bit about what a typical day looks like in kindergarten.
And I guess there's really no typical day in kindergarten, because anyone that knows 5-year-olds knows that at any moment something can change. And it does. When there's 19 to 25 children in the classroom, things can change. But I'm only one teacher, so I'm kind of giving you an overview of what can happen. And the 7 of us all have our own teaching style, but we're all doing the same things. And I know you got that one of the handouts listed all of these things with little numbers, RFK1. Those are the frameworks, standards, the Common Core standards for what children should know at the end of kindergarten. So please don't read this and start panicking to say, oh my gosh, my child doesn't know this right now. It's okay. You know that. It's okay. But it gives you an idea on what we're working toward. But on the typical day in kindergarten, your children are going to arrive at school either by bus or by you and get dropped off. And they're going to come down to our classrooms, and in most cases, I know at our building, they wait outside the classroom with teachers on duty watching them for the first few minutes. About the bus, one little backtrack, if your child's going to take a bus, it's a really good idea if you have them start that right away on the first day of school. It's probably going to be harder for you to put that child on the bus the first day than it's going to be for them. But it really does make a difference if we start those routines off well, because then they know that this is my bus and this is where I go. If you're going to have changes in your child's routine, understand that it's very confusing for a 5-year-old to not know where they're going and how they're getting there each day. So trying to keep those routines as consistent as possible really alleviates some anxiety and panic for them. We understand that things change and some kids need to have different routines. But it's a lot to expect for them initially to remember that today I'm going to this house and tomorrow I'm going here and this person's picking me up there. That's a lot to expect, so try to keep that in mind. But as they arrive at school, I said they wait outside the classroom. They then come in, and they're going to be putting their things away. So you will have a backpack that's going to have a lunch or lunch money and a snack, because we do all of those things during the day. And they're going to be putting that away in a cubby. That's first right off. We're going to try to have them recognizing their name because things are labeled. Hopefully they can be able, September will be hot, they will probably need a coat, but eventually they will. Can they get their coat on and off? Can they unzip their backpack? Do they have any idea whether they're buying lunch or they brought lunch? Try to make them understand there's a difference between the snack and the lunch, because we'll ask them in the morning. Believe it or not, the cafeteria wants to know how many kids are buying this, and there's 3 choices every day. We know as teachers, they're not going to remember what they chose or what you told them to buy. We know they probably don't even know if they have a lunch or they're buying lunch or if they have money anywhere. So try to let them know. Big advice, there's an account that you can go on to once your child's registered. Prepay for everything, just put money on that account. Don't send money in if you can, because they won't know if they have it usually. And they probably will lose it. And it's very hard for us to find the money for 20 of them. They will never go hungry. We will always make sure they get food. But sometimes they think that everything is in there is snack. They want to eat everything. We try to keep it healthy. This is kind of their first time experiencing the cafeteria as well. We'll get to that later. So after they put things in, they're going to want to explore that bathroom. Gee, hopefully they know what to do when they get in there. And that they're comfortable being in a bathroom by themselves with the door shut. All of our classrooms have bathrooms in them. I know in our school there's 2 bathrooms in our classroom, so they have a choice. Most of us have the advantage of doing it just it's a bathroom, use whichever one is not occupied. But teach them to respect that the door's closed, we want to knock. Can they take their clothes down, do what they need to do in the bathroom and come out independently? Those are things that we as teachers are not really able to help your child with, the buttoning of pants and helping in the bathroom. That's just not something that we're able to do without other adults around. Washing hands. You should know to wash your hands when you're finished. These are all things that happen when they come in. We're going to get them settled down. We're going to go through a morning routine that often includes something with attendance. We're going to teach them how to do that. We're going to talk about the calendar. We often talk about the weather. There's a lot that happens, and some of you might think, well, calendar, weather, no big deal. There's a lot of math that happens during that routine for us in the morning. We work into that a lot of language, a lot of name recognition, learning their friends' names. That's something as you get going during the year, you're going to want to be able to have conversations with your child about their friends. So we try to share that information with you. We use a program called Foundations, and a lot of us work with that program in the morning. It's a literacy program. It works on phonics and phonemic awareness. So you'll be doing a lot of things with letter naming, letter ID, identification of sounds, rhyming. You'll get a lot of information from us about that. Each teacher teaches math at a different time during the day, but there will be math at some point in time during your day. All of us, I believe, are using centers, and a center would be after you've talked with the children, they're going to go to a different place in the classroom. I know in my room there's probably between 5 and 7 different activities going on at a time during a period of time in the morning. They've all been modeled, they've all practiced it, and now they're going to practice it some more independently with 4 to 6 children at a table. Practicing something, they're going to learn how to work in a group that size. We're going to model that. I'm not going to expect them on day 1 to say, here, Jay, go do this, because they need to understand what it means to work at a table and do things. At those tables, you might find Play-Doh. You might find an art activity. You're going to find a math activity where they're coloring, they're counting blocks. There's going to be some early writing activity. Books, they might be reading a book, or they're looking at pictures. Looking at pictures is reading a book as well. In my classroom, snack is actually a center. They learned how to eat their snack, and they know when they can be at that table because there's only 4 chairs there, and if there's not an empty space, well, then you're going to have to wait a moment and go to another center until there is time for you. These are all things that are going to be modeled and handled in the classroom, so don't expect that they're going to come. We don't expect them to come in and know how to do all of that, but that's part of the day.
So they'll have some times where they're exploring. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. We're going to move on to our recess and lunch time. Children are all going to have a recess time. They're all going to have a lunch time. They're going to take those things with them. At our building right now, we have recess before we have lunch. So they take things out with them. We come in, they have lunch, the cafeteria. Great place, unless you've never been to one before. And you don't really know what to do with that little styrofoam tray, and you see all of that food that doesn't look like what Mom told you to eat. Or you don't like your chicken nuggets in that shape, but there are 3 choices, so you get to pick something and you kind of have to know which one you want. And there's 3 choices for milk, too. So maybe you need to attend an all-you-can-eat buffet someday and try that out. Because there's an awful lot of choices. And then they're carrying it, they're trying to pay their money, they get to a cafeteria table, they've got to open a milk carton all by themselves. They're a little challenging, and so are those juice boxes where you poke the straws in. So practice, practice, practice on all of those snack options. Yogurt containers, chips, crackers, anything that comes in something, practice. We are clearly there to help them, and we will be. The kindergarten assistants are in the cafeteria. They're going to help them with that as well. But the more they practice those independent skills, it really makes it easier for everybody. They go back into the classrooms after lunch, and there's often a quiet time at the beginning of the year, because let's face it, that's a long day so far for some of them. They're used to chilling out at home, and it's a long day. So a quiet time would be a quiet reading time, where they might be reading with us, they might be looking at books independently. Just a little bit relaxing, a little bit of downtime. Into our day is also specials. We call those specials. Those are physical education, art, music, library, technology. All places your child is going to go with their group of students to see another adult to practice something else with them. So again, and they're going to do that every day. Every day they have a place to go for a certain time of the day. There'll be more independent practice and some small group instruction later in the afternoon as well. We keep continuing and revisiting things that we talked about in the morning. We continue to practice them. Then it's time to start getting ready to go home, where you need to start packing up all those things. We are all going to get a folder. The parent organization is nice enough to provide all children with a folder. We're going to teach them how to put things in it. And we really, really need your help on this, because when they come home, they're going to be excited about all that stuff in there. And it's your job as a parent to go through it, because they've worked really hard all day. There will be notes in there. That's where we're going to communicate to you. It's real important to try to get your child in the habit of going through things with you. I know you're really busy, because I had 3 children and went through it, so I understand it's not always easy. But try to go through those papers and try to be as excited about some of the things as they are. Talk about it. Ask them, well, what did you do on this paper? How did you do that? See if you can get some information. And then send back things that need to come back. That's where you're going to put things that you need us to get. If you have a note from home, let your child know you're putting something in there if possible. We know they're going to forget. In the beginning of the year, we spend time going through things. That's where those teaching assistants are a huge piece. We would love to have them all day long, so please keep that in mind next year at any opportunity you can. That's pretty much our whole day. Then they have to get on buses after they've packed up. So knowing what bus they ride home or how they're going home is important. We have lists, and we do a really good job at getting them where they need to be going. So it's important that you communicate to us exactly where your child's going every day. We make bus tags of some sort that their child will wear at the beginning of the year, the child's name and a bus number on it to keep them in the right order. But that's a practice for them also, because you have to understand there are 2 bus lines in our building going out at the same time. We work really hard to keep the kindergartners in the right lines in the beginning of the year. But just communicating to your child some of those things that they need to know, so we can make it work for you. And working with us is key. Really, all of the kindergarten teachers here, we really want to work with you on this. You are their first teacher. You know your child best. So keep doing what you're doing, but just help them a little bit more get ready for kindergarten. And one other resource is the book called Yardsticks by Chip Woods. It talks about children in the classroom from ages 4 to 14. I've used this a lot. I kind of wished I had it when my children were of age for me, because it wasn't always easy sending them off to school, but it gives you an idea on some expectations of what it's like in the classroom for children. Questions for me? Or anybody? No, good, we're done. Nope, there is one, yes.
How many assistants do you have, like, in a classroom?
Right now, we each have, at the Blackstone School, we have one half-time assistant in each classroom. However, Millville does not have that does not have that anymore. That was something that was removed from the budget last year. They were full-time at one time, that was removed from it was cut, and now in our school in Blackstone, it's half-time. Not enough. I'll just keep saying that, not enough.
In Millville, we do have some teaching assistant that's based on any students with special needs. And so if there's an assistant in there, it's because there's a child or children who require that. But we do have a co-teaching class this year. So it's a full-time kindergarten teacher and a full-time special education teacher. Next year, obviously, that model will change because that group will go on to first grade. So right now, it's we have two sections of Millville. One class has a full-time, two teachers because of the programmatic needs. The other classroom has a full-time teacher, and again, we have classroom assistants because, again, of specialized programmatic needs. That's this year.
You know, I think the first very important thing is to be involved in your child's education. Understand what that school day looks like, understand what the demands are, and be vocal in the community. And I guess what I would say is vote, but know what you're voting for, and become involved in the town when there are budget meetings, school committee meetings. Please, the school committee welcomes you to be part of that audience and listening. And I know that you can view it on TV as well, but it's you know, our superintendent has said that he welcomes questions. He welcomes anyone, all of you, to be involved, and that's the first step. So just become informed, I guess is what I would say. Ask those questions, and again, I encourage you to attend school committee meetings. We're going to be starting, next year, the budget process, we're going to be starting earlier, probably October. Yeah, I would say sometime in October when we start looking at our school budgets. So again, you know, I know that Mr. Himmelberger believes in transparency, and he wants to get the word out. He wants all parents to understand the budget and why we are where we are with AIDS. So that's my answer. Get involved and become informed and ask questions.
Also get involved with and please get involved with your parent organizations. Millville, it's called MESPA, and at Blackstone, it's BIPO, because the parent organizations, I cannot thank them enough. They do so very much. They volunteer their time, fundraisers. I know from the fundraising efforts from MESPA this year, I was able to purchase a lot of books for the classrooms, for the teachers to use with the students, and spent a lot of money on that, but a lot of other things that we purchased with those fundraisers from the community. And it's also a nice way to get together with everybody in the community. So look early on, the notifications do come home. You will be surprised, for those of you who are the first time kindergarten students, the amount of paperwork that's going to come home in those backpacks. But please take the time to read through it, because you'll have information from your parent teacher organization. You'll have information about classroom routines from your teacher, all sorts of forms that we need with information back from you.
And I would also add that each school has a school council.
Yes.
And what you have to do is you have to volunteer, and then there is a vote. And typically, I know I hold that vote on Meet the Teacher nights. So we put names on a ballot. So that is really a good way. We meet once a month. We work on our school improvement plan, and that's really good time to have great dialogue about budget and what's going on in the building. And there was a question about the number of kindergarten students in Blackstone. Yeah, our enrollment is high, so I think I think right now we're looking at mid-20s in each classroom, 22, 23.
And we have 5 classrooms.
And we have 5 sections in kindergarten. Our numbers are high. And typically during the summer, we have families, I mean, we still have families who haven't enrolled, we know that. And they'll do too. Every summer it happens where families move into the community or just haven't picked up a registration packet yet. And then sometimes we have some who move out too. But I would expect our numbers to probably stay around there. At Kennedy School, we have an orientation in August for incoming kindergarten students. Parents and students are invited. And so we're there for about an hour and a half, and we kind of have different sessions that you will attend, sort of like centers in a classroom that you will rotate through. And so we do that. Do you want to speak to?
At Millville, we do step-up day. So everybody will come the last day of our school, which is June 26th. Thank you. So the students will come for step-up day. And then for parents, what we traditionally do, this year will be on September 11th, we have a preschool and kindergarten tea-in tour. So that's when the families get a whole tour of the entire building. You can peek into the classrooms, but we tell you not to go into the classroom because, of course, the little ones at that point are still getting used to school. And if they see mommy, daddy, grandma, grandpa, they might start crying. And it disrupts what they're doing in the classroom. So you, during the tea-in tours, when you get a tour of the building, so we do it a little bit differently. I'm not sure if you heard that, but Mrs. Olbies was saying on step-up day here, parents and children come. And you'll gather in the cafeteria, read a story, and then you'll go break off and see the classrooms. So that will be on June 26th, the step-up day, and it's usually in the morning, because it's only a half day of school that day.
So just please make sure you check our websites, and so that will keep you updated, and we often do one-calls, and then once we get your contact information.
I know at the orientation at the Kennedy School, we try to keep that focus a little more on the kids for that one, because they're there with you, and we want them to feel comfortable to be familiar with who we are as the teacher, so they can recognize our face that day when they first come into school and they're dropped off. There will be a date in September, which is either called Meet the Teacher Night or Back to School Night, which is a parent-only night usually, so that you can come and hear more about the curriculum and the specific routines and things that are going on in your child's classroom. And I know, I personally welcome parent volunteers. For the people that wanted to know how to be involved, I'll let you sign up. If you're in my room, you can come in every day of the week if you'd like.
Well, okay, we want to thank you so very much for coming tonight. And we look forward to meeting all of you and having you be part of our school community. Thank you.